Alright, what's up guys? Today I just want to go over the Ford swap on the Miata, what it consists of, what you got to change, and just stuff like that. Everything you need to know about swapping a Ford BP into your Mazda Miata. It's the same engine, block and everything, but there is some slight differences, so I'm going to go over that in today's video. Alright, so as you can tell, I have a Ford BP 1.8 in here. And this engine is actually out of a 91 Ford Escort. Now, there's some tough things about the 91 Escort that I'm going to talk about, and the years after that will be much easier to swap, but I didn't know that when I bought this engine. Alright, so first things first, biggest thing you're going to note that's different about these engines is this obviously comes out of a front-wheel drive vehicle. You could find them in Escorts and I think Mazda Proteges. But the coolant actually enters into the back, so it's a coolant reroute on the engine. When you get it, there will be a port right out the back, and right here where I actually have mine plumbed into the stock Miata location, there will be a freeze plug. All you need to do is just knock out the freeze plug, and you could use your Miata front. It has the holes ready and everything. You can just bolt it right up, so this will just go right on there, and that's the easy way to do it. And you could use your Miata rear cover to just block up the hole that it used. So that all works out perfect. That's probably the biggest thing you're gonna notice that's different about this. All right, next thing you're gonna wanna know is that all the accessories are different. So like this coolant piece with all the hoses and stuff and all the hard lines, the alternator is different, the water pump pulley is different, the actual water pump is different itself, and the crank pulley is different. Now on the 91, it has a short nose crank pulley, which is unfortunate because I didn't know that. So I had to go out and buy a new crank pulley and the alternator and the water pump because it uses the V-belt style, unlike the 1.8. But later models, you should be able to use the 1.8 accessories. So you need to use a 1.6 water pump, and you kind of have to make your own alternator bracket. As you can just tell right there, I just made a bracket that went right under the block to mount the alternator. It works really good, but you know, just something you gotta look forward to like when you're doing this swap. All right, another big thing is the intake manifold. The intake manifold you need to take off, completely swap with the Miata one, obviously, because the Ford one is, the throttle body is actually on the back, and nothing's gonna work at all. And that's just a big thing. It's not a hard thing, it's just you gotta make sure you do that right and get all your vacuum hoses where they should be going. All right, one of the biggest things of this swap is the oil pans. As you can tell, I have my old oil pan on there with the oil drain right there connected already, and it wasn't too bad to pull off because the Ford engines, I guess, actually use gaskets, unlike the Mazda engines where they're just RTV'd on. So you're gonna have to take out the oil pan off the Ford engine, you know, clean all the RTV and whatever off your oil pan from your Miata, and then get it on there, and you should replace the rear main seal when it's in there like I did, or do any seal that looks like it's bad. But the oil pan is definitely probably the biggest thing about this swap, just because you need to pull the engine out of the car and actually have it upside down on a stand and make sure you put on the new oil pan correctly. Another thing about the Ford engine is this valve cover is different. Now, it doesn't really change much aside from the fact that your coil packs aren't really held on to anything now because there's no mounting bracket. I just have mine held up just enough so it won't move. But you could always just swap the Miata valve cover, but I think this one looks pretty cool and unique. All right, now one more important thing about these engines, the head actually has a different mold on the back, and I don't know if you could tell, but if you see that like orangey looking bolt under that hose right there, that's actually a welded piece. We put a bolt in there and welded it because it is actually a coolant route on this engine that you will not need to use anymore, and you need to plug it because obviously it's a huge coolant leak if you don't. So we just welded that up, not too much of a big deal, but that's just something you guys are gonna have to look out for if you're doing the swap. All right, I don't know if I already said it, but the water pumps themselves are actually different. I'm gonna show you guys all the parts that came on this engine right now, and then show you why they won't work. So let's go and look at the my old engine block and all the accessories that were on this engine. All right, so here we have all the accessories, and my old Miata head and block, they're unusable, but right here we have the stock flywheel. It was an automatic, but that's no big deal. So first thing you're going to do when you get your Ford engine is strip everything. Strip the exhaust manifolds, intake manifolds, all your accessories, engine mounts, everything. So here's the stock intake manifold. Obviously that will not work. So here's the stock Miata water pump. As you can tell, it has the hole right here for the alternator. The 1.6 actually doesn't, so it just ends like that. The difference is one is threaded and one isn't. So you will not be able to use this because it won't actually seal to the car correctly. But it's the same exact water pump, it's just missing that piece right there. So like I said, you need to make your own alternator bracket. Here's the stock oil pan. You're not going to be using that either. And here is the long nose pulley. So long nose crank, it comes out like this. There's a little key and then your pulley goes on it. The short nose crank, there's no key that the actual gear goes on. It's already outlined with the key in it, and the gear just slides over. And then the pulley isn't actually held on by the bolt. The pulley is held on by 4 screws instead. So that will be different. And if that's different, you'll have to change all your alternator and your water pump pulleys just so everything works together. So this is the stock Miata head, and as you can tell, here's where the coolant routing would go from your radiator that I was talking about. On the Ford engine, it's going to have these same screws and everything. There's just going to be a freeze plug in there. So all you need to do is pop that out, RTV it, and it'll go right on there perfectly. This is the back of the stock Miata head. So what you're going to do is just take this piece off the Miata one and then plug it on the Ford one where the Ford coolant route would go. And then you could just plug in your sensors to it and everything. And like I was saying with that bolt, there's a second port right here on the Ford one that you need to plug up because it's a pretty big hole and you don't want coolant, you know, going out and blowing your head gasket or something. So definitely get that done. But other than that, I think that's about everything that you need to know about this swap. It's not too big of a deal. It's just tedious. But yeah, like I was saying, the swap isn't too hard to do. It's just a lot of stuff is just annoying because, you know, it's not going to work perfectly. And you kind of got to just make things work in the way that'll be reliable and it won't hurt you down the line. Like the alternator bracket and stuff, make sure everything's sturdy and will hold up. But it's a very cost-effective option if you don't want to pay the Miata premium for new engines these days, because Miatas are just skyrocketing to the moon now. So that's just how to swap a Ford or Mazda, I guess, front-wheel drive BP 1.8 into your Miata. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.